and then let's send it live on YouTube. Okay. So we're live on YouTube now. What's up, everyone? If you're watching and hanging out with us, what we're doing is we're going to do a quick recap of day one so far, the first 5 hours of CloneComp. We're going to talk a little bit about some updates, clarify a few things that have come up since the beginning of the competition. And after that, we're going to jump into the space. So if you're watching, if you're a participant, you already know how to get into the map. So go ahead and jump into the map. Here in about 15-20 minutes, we're going to jump into the auditorium. And then if you're just a spectator, so if you're just watching on the stream and you'd like to jump in, join us by clicking the little gather link right here. Join on gather as a spectator. So Colleen, Joe, let's get your thoughts. Rohan, what are your first thoughts there?
A lot of happy and thankful people. I spent the entire day walking around, talking to people, getting their reaction, and everybody was really happy and thankful. That's what I'm getting from the spectators of the event.
Yeah. Hey, let me interrupt for 1 second. If you're watching this in the participant dashboard, we love you. We appreciate you. There's like 50 people in there right now. If we could get everybody over to YouTube, let's let YouTube know that we're actually live. Right now, there's only 5 people on the YouTube stream. So if we could get, and I think there should be a link in the dashboard underneath the slides. Ooh, let's see. And then Colleen, what are your thoughts as I find this link, and I'll send people a link to the, or Rohan, maybe in the chat of the dashboard. Can you send a link, maybe in Slack? Let's send the YouTube link.
One of the things that was exciting today is we opened up the gather space at 10 a.m. Eastern for those who had registered. And basically, as that email went out and that link went live so that people could access it, there were people that were streaming in, exploring the space. And, you know, just to Joe's point, just excited to get to know one another, to talk, to explore, and you know, excited for the event when it kicked off. And, you know, there was a lot of news when we had the official live stream and the official kickoff. So I'm sure we'll be getting into that in a moment.
Yeah, I'm going to go full screen here. Let's go gallery on everyone. There we go. That's a little better view for the folks as we're chatting about what's going on here. We don't need to see the gather screen. So, yeah, Colleen, do we want to run through some of those updates? Rohan, actually, let's get your first take. Let's get your first thoughts.
I saw a lot of people just networking, talking, sharing stories, giving like inside looks. People were just having friendly chats, where they're from, what they're doing, how they got into Webflow, how they got into no code space. And I'm really loving this this community vibe that's going on, and that's coming along with the competition. It's not all intense and I want to win and I want to be the best. No. People are helping out. People are making friends. You know, they're getting to know each other, and that's just amazing to be part of and to interact with. So, yeah, totally loving it.
Yeah, I think that's probably the best part of this whole thing is the community, and that was last year. That was kind of the biggest takeaway was the experience. It wasn't necessarily what people built. It wasn't the projects. While that was fun, it was more hanging out with everyone as they were building. It was reviewing the sites that people built. It was seeing what people came up with over the course of the competition that really got exciting. And I hope if you're out there as a participant that you're looking at and paying attention to some of this, that you're participating in the gather space. At least come by and see what people are doing. Actually, in the next few minutes, we're going to do that. We're going to have everyone jump into the gather map, and we'll do, instead of reviewing the sites on the screen here, we'll be in gather, and let's just jump in gather and have everyone do a show and tell. So you can show us what you're working on if you want. No submissions have been made, so there's no real official submissions for us to look at or judge. So we're just going to do a real simple day one overview of, you know, like whoever wants to share what they're building, we'd love to see it. So, Colleen, do we have a little bit of an agenda, right? What's
yeah.
What's
so what are we talking about? What do we talk about Webflow CEO Vlad joining the stream and the announcement that he made? There was an announcement that was all kind of news to everybody here as well as participants. It was quite unexpected and is, you know, kind of changes the game and changes the prize pool a little bit.
Yeah. Yeah, who wants to take that? I got to take that. Somebody else. Let me know what happened. What happened with Vlad?
Well, somebody, the winner of CloneComp, is going to be going to No Code Conf for free. That's paid for flight. That's paid for ticket. That is a special meeting with the Webflow team. That is a really, really nice addition to that 5,000 cash for that first prize.
Yeah.
So that was a big, big step up by Vlad. This was a last minute thing from him. We heard about it last minute. Really nice excitement to that add-on.
Yeah, that was cool to see. I know when I saw that message in Slack, I found Joe like, say what? And yeah, so and that's, again, like Joe said, airfare, the ticket to the conference, a hotel, and, you know, meet the team. Meet some of the team is what he said. I don't know exactly what that means. I doubt you're going to meet everyone. That's a big team over there. But getting a chance to go behind the scenes and meet some of the folks behind there, it's a great experience. We got a chance to do that, Colleen, Joe, and myself, in 2019 at the last No Code Conf, and that was a really cool experience to get to kind of see behind the curtain. And so if you get a chance at that, I would not shy away from it. So I want to say, let's see who we have here. Kevin, what's up, Kevin? Guillerme, Maggie, what's up? Simon, Peter Blanchford, Wallison, Magdalena, Zach, what is up, everyone? Thanks for hanging out with us. So what's next on the agenda, Colleen?
Well, that was kind of the big, then we released the clonable and the storyline. So do you want to take 2 minutes to say about that, and then how to submit a site? Because that's something we haven't necessarily covered, and it's now possible to do that. That's been added to the dashboard.
Yeah, I think there's 115 clones already on the site. Last year, we had 117 total over the course of the 4-day competition. So we're already 5 hours in, almost exceeding the number of times the actual core site was cloned last year. We think that will continue to grow as the rest of the competition goes, right? It'll diminish, right? But people will come on the second day and they'll participate. People will reclone, whatever it is. And so we don't know how many submissions that means tomorrow, but we will be keeping an eye out for all of that. And we'll talk a little bit about what it takes. We'll go over those submission guidelines just a quick little bit. One thing we wanted to say before that is the gather space is now open. It's now open to the public. Before we had that email gate, we had people required to register, and that was because we were kind of worried about a big flood and overflowing the gather space. But we've gone ahead and opened that up, and all are welcome to join. So invite your friends to come and check it out, especially for the happy hour on Friday. As we do the award ceremony, we're going to want as many people as possible in that space. So we're going to fill that thing up and get people excited about checking out who wins CloneComp, what the results were. We're going to look at the different sites that were submitted and built. And so, yeah, that's going to be a total blast. Anything missing there?
Nope, not on the gather space.
Cool.
Nope.
Hey, Rohan, do you want to real quick run people through the submission process?
Sure, yeah. Would you be sharing your screen?
I think you can if you want. However you prefer.
Okay. Sure.
Let me change. There we go. Nice.
Can you see my screen?
Yep.
Nice. So all you've got to do is head over to the dashboard page, scroll all the way down, and then this is the submission block. You would have your Webflow username right here. You can simply copy that, click on add, find your username by copy pasting or typing that in, putting in the Webflow clonable URL link. So make sure that this is not the live URL link, but the one where people can clone your Webflow project. You can then take a screenshot of the hero section. We would like to have a 540 by 360, a PNG, JPEG, or a GIF. If you've added any integrations, you hit yes. If not, then no. If you've used the official illustrations, then yes. If not, then no. And then you submit. When you submit, you can refresh the page and view that submission live in this grid view. That's right here at the bottom.
Yep.
And one final pointer, if you'd like to know the deadline in your local time zone, You can click onto this link. And I've also made a Loom recording walking through the same setup.
Perfect. Awesome. Thank you, Rohan. So yeah, for anybody who's participating right now, that was a great run through of what you'll do tomorrow. Or even I saw somebody had showcased a site. There was already one submission. If you go to the Clonable page, there was like a real simple site underneath there. And I looked at it and I was like, okay, this is cool. I think one of the things we talked about this with some of the participants kind of walking around the space was that I think we hyped how much time people were going to spend and how intense the competition was going to be. And I think maybe we scared away people who might be beginners or early stage stuff. And I don't, I want to encourage everyone that you can get as simple as or as creative as you want with this. And yeah, it would be interesting to see how some of you all approach. We've talked about having maybe advanced, intermediate, and beginner tiers next year. So again, we're learning all of this. If you have any feedback about the event, about the format, about anything, the space itself, we'd love to hear that. This is a big build in public, learning as we're growing kind of thing. This is the first time we've ever done an event like this. And so we're all learning as we go as well. So any feedback you all can share with us about the process, we would much appreciate that. So let's look at the notes here and see. Submit site. Okay, beginner, you should participate. What else? Colleen, we have some tweets coming in, huh?
Yes, we do. So kind of going back to what Joe was saying earlier about there being informal conversations within the space. One of the things that was really nice today is, as part of those conversations, some of last year's top winners were in the space giving advice on things to do, ways to go about, doing your project, that kind of thing. And then subsequently, Josh Jacobs from last year shared a tweet a little while ago that if you're if you're building a site, you're doing CloneComp wrong. So, as much as we've been talking about this being a site competition, it is a story-driven competition. So no matter what, going back to Rymar's point a moment ago, no matter what skill level you are, even if you are very new to Webflow and you're maybe not super comfortable with the interface, if you're a good storyteller or want to work on your storytelling skills, this is a competition that you should engage in.
And there's still plenty of time between now and noon tomorrow. I mean, we're only 6 hours into this thing, so we've got a ton of time left to download the Clonable. Maybe people are just getting off work now on the East Coast of the US. It'll still keep trickling down to the West Coast. So I expect as that goes around for more people to kind of jump in, and we'll see what happens overnight. I'll be kind of watching the build space. Didn't get much sleep last night. I don't plan on getting much sleep over the next few nights as we kind of work through some of this. And I wanted to double down on what Colleen just said, that if you're a copywriter, right, like this is your moment, because you could take the story and evolve the story. And last year, some of the there was a funny factor and there was this cleverness factor when we saw some of these sites, and it wasn't exactly that they were just stunning designs, but sometimes you come up with some real clever visual ways to represent a story that are just fun and playful. And so again, I encourage anyone who's looking to challenge their skill set or whatever to give it a swing. So let's see. Okay, what else I'm not sure. We've had some great community interactions. I don't think we need to go into too many details, but we've had a lot of people sharing and answering questions from the community themselves, and also people offering to support to pay for Webflow accounts so that people could participate. So kudos to all of you. This competition is really about connecting and creating a venue for you all to connect with each other. Right. And so as much as, you guys can do that, we've had some interesting conversations about potential future events, format updates, all sorts of stuff. Joe's been running around doing secret demos of, some covert software that may or may not be coming soon. So find Joe in the Gather space and ask him about that. He's out here blowing people's minds with some updates that we're working on. What else? Rohan, Joe, what am I missing here?
Well, I thought it was really interesting that I didn't get to see any projects being built. That anytime I went into a private space where someone was building, they had a different tab open, or they weren't screen sharing, or they were not answering at all. And it goes to show you that people really want to present the final product. And I was expecting to go around and seeing people build in real time, but everybody wants to keep it really private until their big reveal submission. So that's cool. It's an interesting piece of this.
Yeah, and we'll see here again in a few minutes. We'll jump into the gather space, and you don't have to, but if you'd like to share, if you'd like to show, it would be cool to jump in there and just kind of see what you're working on. Otherwise, feel free to submit. Again, last year we touted this as a completely self-guided competition, and that's kind of the spirit of this. We're just doing the live streams and hanging out to just create some of that connectivity and some of the other stuff around the edges. So. Colleen, we have a couple clarifications that we need to make, or before we move on, do you want to make some thoughts there?
Yes, we do. We do have a couple clarifications to make. So one of the questions that's consistently coming up is when are submissions due? So we're basically I look at it as we're kind of running on a cycle. So basically 12 p.m. Eastern is when we have our daily kickoff event, and when we release the next round of the competition in terms of the storyline. And right before we do that, basically you need to be getting your submission in. So 12 p.m. Eastern, make sure that your content is in. Rohan has added a time date, calculator as part of that form. If you're not sure what that is in your time zone, there's also on the website a link to a Google Calendar that you can subscribe to help you, make those mental calculations. And while the deadline is 12 p.m. Eastern, there may be some advantages to submitting a little bit before that. We are going to be doing the live streams at 12 p.m. Eastern. And if you have gotten your submission in before that and we're able to see that, maybe that's something that will be getting pulled up. And, maybe that then gives you an advantage in the competition because we're talking about it on the live stream, people see it, and then maybe they're then cloning it. So a little bit of, maybe a little bit of gameplay there.
Nice.
So,
that's a good strategy.
Yeah,
the strategy all over the place.
Yeah, so there's that strategy. Also, the deadline is 12 p.m. Eastern, but if you don't get it in on time, if you get it in by 1 p.m. Eastern, we'll still take it, but you will be docked points, and those points will probably mean that you're going to be kicked out of not kicked out of the competition. You're still in the competition, but your chances. Yeah, your chances of getting a top prize probably, will probably go to zero.
Yeah.
So those are the submissions. Yeah, go ahead, Rohan.
That reminds me, an important point to make is we will have the gallery page on the CloneComp website, and all submissions are sorted by the time submitted. So if you submit early, then your project is featured at the top. So you are now having a good chance of getting a lot of crowd votes. So it will help to submit early.
Rohan with strategy. Everyone's bringing strategy. Wow. Josh Fry dropped a couple really good nuggets of strategy during the event. Let's see if I can remember some of them. Should we share them, or should we save those for the people that were in the scoop? But we were talking about the way this is going to play off is a few people will probably shape the direction of the competition with their submissions on day one, right? And so a lot of people will flock to those because they're the most beautiful. And so it's a natural tendency to want to go in that direction. Josh Fry, who was last year's runner-up, was saying that maybe that's not the best route because two reasons. One, maybe you want your day two submission to stand out in away from that original design, and maybe the crowd is looking this direction, and so doing something unique on day two could allow you to stand out in the competition. And also on the second reason was that you're then supporting the most popular person, right? Because if everyone's cloning the same site, then you're essentially voting for that person. And so, not to discourage anyone from picking a specific site or for using that site for their starting point, but those were really good points from Josh that, I was like, oh, okay, that is some real good CloneComp strategy right there. So yeah, that's the kind of nuggets you can get while you're hanging around the space. So we had Timothy Ricks hanging out. We had Nelson Pixel Geek hanging out. We had the folks from the Flow Ninjas were cruising around. Edgar Allen, Refocus, Leo, the whole squad is in there, and everyone's kind of sharing and passing value. So definitely explore the space. It's not being used for kind of what we thought, where we thought people would post up and kind of share their work, but we are seeing little pockets of people just getting together, hanging out. They're brainstorming, they're thinking about how to build. It's very hackathonish. It's like what you might expect inside of a venue, you know, with this kind of people working together. So that's cool to see. And I wanted to, Peter Blanchford, oh noes, I'm making a site, pivot. It's not that I think you can't pull it off. Some people had some cool site looking type elements, and the ones that did win had a story to the site. There was a reason for the business, right? The business was maybe you're sprouting up a business on Finsweet Island that's going to sell, you know, food and clothing. I don't know, right? So like there are ways to make a site play. I think what Josh was alluding to was that the story is much more important than building something that looks or feels like a traditional website, right? A traditional website is not necessarily gonna like blow the crowd away versus like a nice little narrative as I scroll down the page will make a bigger impact. And so I think that's the sentiment of that tweet that just maybe clarify a little bit. Sheridan saying, I just work better without an audience. Yeah. And No Coach Sean saying, you're welcome to come hang out at A17 Joe. We're showing ours. So looking at the work. So what else do we have? Do we have any other major points? We're right at the 6:20 point. I wanted to spend just 15-20 minutes, maybe a little bit longer here if we have a couple other things to recap, touching base on what happened. But otherwise, let's jump into Gather, right? And let's get into the auditorium. Colleen, what are we missing?
Can we just go really fast on a couple things?
Sure.
So there's also been a couple questions related to graphics. You are not required to use the illustrations that are provided. However, there is a prize for the best use of the illustration. So again, you know, maybe that's something that you want to take advantage of, or maybe you don't want to take advantage of based on your skill set. Be careful. You cannot use premium assets. So if you are pulling graphics from a third-party site, if those are premium assets, it's probably going to be against the licensing terms of that service. So avoid doing that. We did see last year a lot of folks using Lottie Files. Lottie Files is a sponsor for this year, so that may be a source that you want to go to. We've also had a number of questions related to custom code and integrations and APIs. So there is some content that is in the FAQ. So you do want to take a look at that. And again, this is some strategy. There's some pros and cons with that. If you're using a lot of integrations, it may be hard for somebody else on follow-on rounds to clone and use your site. And since how many times a site is cloned impacts the score, that's maybe not something that you want to do on round 2. Maybe that's something that you want to wait for a subsequent round. There's also been some questions related to the pages because when the clonable was first released, there was just kind of the home screen. But if you look at the updated clonable, it's home 2, 3. So today's round should be on that home tab.
And the home page should be the day 1 build. So every day, the day 1 build, wherever the story starts, should be day 1. That should be the home page. And then day 2 will be page 2. Day 3 will be day 3. And so that way the site will follow that format. That's a fail on my end as an oversight for not having that clonable ready like that from the get-go. But hopefully you guys can fix that on the fly. So what's coming up next? So let's see, the next deadline tomorrow at noon, 12 p.m. Eastern time. So that is so what's that, 18 hours from now? Just under 18 hours. Yep. And we will also be doing our next stream there. We'll do the same thing we did this time, where we'll be live for a few minutes in the dashboard ahead of time. But sending people to YouTube is probably a better bet, just so we don't look like we have a bunch of dead live streams on YouTube. So do us a favor and give that YouTube video some engagement and help us reach a broader crowd as we do some of this. Let's see, where's the Google Calendar? You mentioned Colleen running on UK time. I think it's in the map, right? Can people get the Google Calendar in the map?
There's a couple of places. So one is in Gather in the map. So if on the sidebar, there's a little calendar icon, but there's also on the homepage where there's the schedule of events. There's a textual link, and so you can just click that. Yeah.
And Josh is jumping in here too on what we were talking about before about Peter's, about pivoting away from a site, saying Josh Fry, and this is the second place. This is the one that gave us the strategy from before. Mine last year had a lot of normal site elements, and I did all right. I think it's cool to blend that with story interactions. So yeah, great way to do that. So okay, so we'll jump off the stream here. I think we'll end that at this point, and let's jump into the map. So can somebody post the gather map and pin that in the chat? And then yeah, we'll just see everyone in there. Let's do a little show and tell round table type thing, kind of like a little hangout after the first day here. So excuse me, we'll end the stream and we'll see you in the space in just a minute.